All right, thought I'd give a quick update on the first gen, what's been going on here. Got it up on jack stands, kind of going through everything. There's a few things that I was gonna point out to look out for on these mechanically. I wasn't gonna get into the mechanics because there's just tons of information out there, but I'm just gonna go through a quick couple things that I've had to go through on both the first gens that I owned. First thing was the power steering. The lines have a tendency to get brittle and leak, and sometimes the hoses will get dry rotted right where the metal meets the hose. See if I can get a flashlight here so you guys can see things a little bit better. All right, as you can see, possibly, maybe you can see it. There is lots of oil everywhere in here. The hose just exploded. So the high pressure side, it's on the back side here. These bends are pretty important to have. I'm sure you could get a hose made if you needed to, but last time I did these hoses, I couldn't find the high pressure side, so I had to get one made. The return side, low pressure side, is just held on by a hose clamp right where that yellow cap is there. And then the metal comes up forward and then bends back towards this fitting here. Just got this in here so don't get any more dust than needs to get in there. So, and it's going to be next on the agenda is a trans cooler. I'm going to relocate mine with a fan. They have a tendency to be leaky, and especially the lines in the transmission. The last first gen I owned, it had the Alpha 518 transmission in it, and the lines actually had a sensor in it, and I had to get that line custom made because I couldn't find it anywhere. And if you do find the other line on the Alpha 518, it's extremely expensive, like I said, if you can find it. Got the rear end apart. One thing that's really common is your hub seal on the rear. That is a real common place for these things to leak. And of course, leaky gear oil onto brake pads. It's not a good situation. So I got it apart. The scoring is at it's little to no scoring on this spindle. My last one, I had to have the spindle cut off, welded, and then turned back down the spec because the bearing, well, not only where the seal was riding, but where the bearing was riding was scored down way too much. I did get my U-bolts in, so I decided to go with an 8-inch, 5/8 inch U-bolt, and I got them an inch shorter. So I think these are like 9.5. I got an 8-inch because I'm going to take out not only the overload spring, the helper spring, this spring, and this spring. So I'm taking out a good large chunk. I think this is a heavy duty or a camper special or something, because this is a lot of spring pack to have in here. The pleasant surprise, which I already have the cover on, I should have left it off so I could show you guys, but I have a Posi rear end, which is extremely uncommon in a 70 in these years. I am almost positive it was added by somebody. I don't know if it's a dealer option or not at the time, but hey, it's there. I'm super happy about it. Got the axles out. They look good. No problem there. One thing that, like, if you put aftermarket rims, the rears, you're probably not going to be able to put caps over because the tolerance is so tight between the rim and the axle or the hub assembly. So I'm going to paint them up. So once I get the hubs cleaned, I'm putting new seals in the rear here. There's the old one. National number. And I only run National seals. I've tried other brands and they don't hold up, especially if you've got, you know, any scoring going on. Then on this side, all this surface is going to get cleaned and painted up, and then the axle end itself that fits over here is going to get cleaned. There's a flange seal that goes right here. Mine could have been reused, but I'm just going to put new ones since I got it apart. The bearings were all really good yet. I'm assuming they were replaced because they're Timken. But there's the new U-bolts. I'll get those painted up as well. And over here, yellow shocks, not on my truck. So they got painted up. Got the new brake shoes on this side. They're a pain in the butt. The e-brake, I've got a brake in the cable somewhere and not really worried about it. I never really use an e-brake on an automatic anyway. If I was in the city on a parking on a hill, I might be more likely to fix it, but I'll just accommodate for now. It's not that big of a deal. The exhaust is soon to get replaced with a 4-inch. I'm thinking about either just running a 4-inch turbo back with like a 6-inch tip on there, or I'm thinking about running some flat top stacks. If you have an opinion about what you think would look best on this truck, I'm gonna end up repainting it this original brown with like there's a little bit of flake in it. It's hard to see there. On the inside of the door jambs you can see it. So the whole truck will be solid brown, and I'm thinking about, I'm not a big chrome guy whatsoever, but I'm thinking about doing it a little different on this rig, because honestly the black is kind of played out. There's so many trucks out there blacking out everything, and I think that it'd be fresh to have a nice classy looking first gen with chrome accessories, but not too much. So I'm either looking at a flat top stack, maybe like 3 or 4 inches above the cab, or a turbo back 4-inch. My buddy says I need to put a hood stack in here, but I don't want to cut a hole in my hood. It would look sweet, and actually I'm not so sure how hood stack's going to do with having a visor there. That might be a little crazy if I start rolling the coal on it. As you can see, I got my turbo shut off here, and I turned up the pump, which there was another nice surprise on this truck. It already had a DDP fuel pin in it and a 3200 governor spring. So I was happy about that. I turned up the power screw 3 rotations, and the only thing I have left to do is adjust the idle and turn up the timing by 1/8 of an inch. And then that'll be complete. I went ahead and did the fuel filter, and I didn't delete the fuel heater. I live in a colder area, and it just now hit 75 degrees, and it's in the middle of July. So I'm planning on running an S300, I can't even remember the numbers on it, but it's like a 6471 or something like that. I'd have to look at it again. And a 2nd gen manifold, and I'm going to make my own intake horn. I'm going to leave it non-intercooled. A lot of guys like the intercooler, but honestly, for what I'm going to be doing, the intercooler, I've done a lot of research on it, and you know, honestly, cold air makes more power, but cold air burns hotter. And the hotter your air temperature is, once it comes through the engine, the higher your EGT temperatures are going to be. So this is kind of an experiment for me of running just a non-intercooled setup, and I'm going to of course, put a pyro meter in it and get all my gauges set up to monitor things. But I'm just really curious to see how this motor is going to do with the pump turned up and a bigger turbo. We'll see what the EGTs look like. You know, worst case scenario, I can run an intercooler on it later. It's not the end of the world. And that's about it for now. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, or you know, you're looking at buying one of these things, shoot me a message, and like and subscribe. Have a good one.